Actual good advice when it comes to your money. Let's talk about it.
$500. What do I do with it?
And what's the goal?
To just make more of it.
Do you know what you're going to go do to make more money?
Maybe investing, real estate, stocks.
First off is you just got to pick one. Because if you try to do 3 or 2, it's not a winning recipe. Success leaves clues. If you talk to people that have won and made a lot of money, they will all tell you they did one thing for a long period of time and then they won.
So stay with one thing.
Yeah, it's called focus. You know what focus stands for? Follow one course until successful. You got $500, pick one thing. If you go all in and the money goes away and you didn't win, you'll learn so much about yourself, it's worth doing that.
You learn from your mistakes.
They're not mistakes if you learn. It's like falling off a surfboard the first time you surf. Did you fail at surfing?
No.
No, you just learned how not to stand on the surfboard. Get back up.
Solid advice. I mean, when I was younger, I used to think the same way, like, oh, I'm going to do this, I want to do that, I want to get my hands in this. And the older I've gotten, the more influential conversations I've had with very successful people, you always hear, you got to be diversified, you got to do this, you got to make sure you don't have all your eggs in one basket. And although that's true to some point, what he's saying there is if it's business, if it's your job, if it's whatever it is, and we're going to talk more about those in a little bit, but whatever you're going to in business-wise, like to earn money, put all your effort into that. Whatever you're doing as a career, as long as you hopefully somewhat enjoy it, put all your time and effort into that, into being the best person possible in that field, in your area, as you can, because I guarantee you, whatever you're doing, if you're the best or one of the best in that area, the success will follow. But the only way you're going to gain that success and gain that momentum and gain that knowledge in that industry is by putting your time and effort as much as you can into it. And as I was saying, those conversations that I've had with people, they've all said the same thing. They said, I picked one thing and I worked my ass off as much as I could to be the best person I could in that industry. Now, it's up to you to decide which route you want to go, and it may take some time to try out a few different things. You don't have to just stick with the first thing you chose. Like, for example, me, I chose engineering. That's whenever I was 18. I was actually 17 in high school when I made the decision that I was going to go to engineering school and I was going to go become an engineer. I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship, anything about starting a business, nothing like that. I just knew that engineers paid pretty well, and I knew I was relatively good at math. So I said, engineering works for me. Let's go do it. Spent 5 years in college. I graduated college. I went to work at my first engineering job and found out that I absolutely hated it. Wasn't really a shocker though, because I didn't really enjoy learning what I learned in school. I probably should have just went back and changed a few things. But now as I'm older, I look back and I'm so glad that I went through those obstacles that I did at a young age, because I think that set me up to where I am now today. And not only am I glad that I went through engineering and the toughness and how hard that was to do that, it's prepared me to tackle obstacles and things that come up in now businesses that I'm in, to be able to tackle that. Because like I said, I've experienced some pretty tough times in college, as well as trying to do the job of an engineer right out of high school. And I'll say this, like, it's one of the hardest things I've ever done. It is. It's not easy being an engineer, so it really has helped me in my other paths of life since I'm no longer in that industry. But love what he said. Pick one thing to work on and put all of your effort and focus into that, and I can almost guarantee you'll be successful.
If you do these 5 things, you will win with money 100% of the time. Number 1, you need to have a written plan, a budget. No one accidentally wins. Second thing is you got to get out of debt. Your most powerful wealth-building tool is your income. And when you spend your whole freaking life giving your money to banks who fill up the skyline and have furniture nicer than yours, that makes you stupid. Number 3, live on less than you make. You need to decide that my life is not good enough the way it is, and so I am going to control the controllables. I am going to change some things. And then you're going to save some money. You know how rich people get rich? They save money. And if you'll get out of debt and you'll invest and you live on less than you make and you have a plan, then you can do the last one. It's the most fun you'll ever have with money. You can be outrageously generous.
Old Papa Dave coming in clutch. As you guys know, I'm a huge Dave Ramsey fan. Although I don't agree with every single thing he teaches, for the most part, everyone can be successful with their money, managing their money by listening to Dave Ramsey. I've been a fan of him. He's the whole reason I got started and found this passion of personal finance. So I will always give praise to the legend himself, Dave Ramsey. Now, one thing I do want to mention there, all those 5 items that he mentioned, you will 100% win with money, like he stated. The only thing that I want to mention here real quick is when he talks about debt. As you guys know, I am not a fan of consumer debt. I am not a fan of car debt. I mean, a mortgage, obviously, you have to purchase a home, but, student loans, credit card debt, medical debt, all that stuff, I am a big believer in pay it off as fast as you can and don't keep it around. Mortgages, that's a little bit of a different story. But when it comes to what people talk about as good debt, I hold good debt to my name. I have mortgages on my rental properties, and I leverage that money in order for me to grow my wealth because those mortgages on those properties are technically being paid by my tenants. My tenants, the rent they pay me in order to live in the house that I own, that's a business transaction. For anyone who's going to get mad at me for being a landlord in the comments, you obviously don't know how business works. But the money the tenants pay me to live in the property that I purchase and that I upkeep and that I put my hard-earned money and time and sweat equity into, people in the comments, I'm talking to you, the rent they're paying me is paying that mortgage plus some. So that's where I am a fan of using leverage in order to grow your wealth by real estate. Now, one thing I don't do is I don't leverage my money in the stock market. Anything I have in the stock market, my options trades, my longer term trades with my leaps, and then obviously my positions I keep for the long term, I don't use margin in there. I don't like it. I don't want to get, I'm already leveraged in real estate. I don't want to be leveraged in the stock market. It's just how I personally want to operate. If you want to use margin, that's up to you. Make sure you're not over leveraging yourself and you know what you can do and you can afford to get out of a situation in case something bad. And as we know, things can turn on a dime in the stock market. So just be prepared if that does happen, because the last thing you want to happen to you is to get margin called. It's nasty. You don't want to go through it. But ultimately, Dave Ramsey is correct. If you do all those 5 things, guys, I mean, it sounds pretty easy, but it's crazy to think about how many people just don't do that. I mean, the simple one is just living below your means. Forget budget, forget everything else he said. If you just live below your means, meaning you spend less money than you make every single month. Like, this isn't rocket science, guys. Spend less money every single month than you bring home, and you're going to do all right. That money you have left over at the end of the month, use that money to invest and to grow your wealth. And if you just do that one thing, like he said, you're going to win with money. But most people don't do it, unfortunately.
So you're in the camp of not caring too much about the small expenses, the coffee.
Yeah, it's a waste of time.
Why is it a waste of time?
Because they are $3 questions. If you actually added up how much they actually cost you, it's actually not that much. It's the simple joy that you enjoy in the morning, and you could spend your entire life agonizing over buying a coffee. But when I ask people, okay, so you stopped buying coffee for a month, how'd you feel? They go, oh, I felt okay. I go, what'd you do with the money you saved? They go, I don't know, it's in my checking account. Not only do you have to make the decision every single day to save on these tiny little things, you then have to properly invest that money, and you have to do this every single day for the rest of your life. What if we just got 5 critical decisions correct for the rest of our life and didn't have to worry about coffee? Why are we playing so small? Let's talk about, are we investing properly? Do we have a target rate that we are doing? Watch this. I bet you so many couples watching this right now have had arguments about, why'd you spend so much at the grocery store? Why can't you stop spending so much on the kids? And on and on. But have they ever had conversations like this? What is our savings rate? Is it 4%, 6%, 7%? What is our investment rate? Is it 6%, 8%? Whatever the number is, let's make a rule that every December we increase it by 1%. If you just did that, if you increase your investment rate, meaning the percentage of your net income that you invest every single month, I always recommend people start off at 5 to 10%. Let's say you're at 6. If you make a rule, every December we're going to increase that by 1%, it will be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to you, more than all the coffee you ever buy in your entire life. So why the hell would you focus on coffee when you can make one decision per year and make way more than all those coffees combined?
I love that. I mean, I absolutely love what he's saying there because it's so true. If you only focus on these small expenses, you're never really going to make that much of a difference. Now, if you're in a dire, desperate need and you're about to go bankrupt or you're on the verge of literally failing financially, well then, yeah, maybe you don't need to go spending $5 every single day on coffee. But I think he's talking more about the just average individual person. And I love what he states there is if you focus on your savings rate and your investing rate and increasing that every single year and actually following through with that, he's 100% correct. You are going to gain hundreds of thousands of dollars in wealth over the span of your life. And that's the biggest thing here, guys. As I always preach here on the channel, there's 3 main spending categories that I think everyone should focus on saving more money on. And that's living expenses, so housing, like your rent or your mortgage. If you go buy a, modest house for your income, you're probably going to do a lot better than someone who goes out and buys the tip top of their budget. Second one being transportation. Don't go out and buy all the fancy cars unless you have a, relatively higher net worth with some decent cash flow coming in from your investment every month. You just don't need it. Like, why would you waste the money on that? Third is food. If you're going out to eat every single night, ordering takeout, buying the expensive groceries, like that is where you can have a significant amount of savings if you have a plan accordingly to how you're going to purchase food for your family. If you focus on those 3 areas for your spending, that is where you can make a significant difference in your expenses that go out every single month.
If you go to a cocktail party and somebody comes up to you and says, I have $100,000 I'd like to invest, what do you would recommend that person do with $100,000? What do you think is a good idea to do with $100,000 today?
Sometimes they do, and I give them the most boring answer ever, S&P 500.
Just buy an index.
Buy the index. You don't have to worry about the quarterly earnings of a company. Did something change? Did somebody change management? You don't have to make this your full-time job. Just buy the index and you're going to be okay.
Yo, if I had $1 for every single time someone has come up to me and asked me that question, I'd be doing all right. Now, I say my answer is literally the exact same as he just said. That's why I wanted to use that in today's video. I'll get people that come up to me and say the same thing. They're like, hey, JJ, I got $100 or $1,000 or 10,000. How would you recommend I invest this money? Now, I'm always first will say the best way you can invest now and over your lifetime, as I've stated in nearly almost every video, is invested in a index that is going to track the market, either the SP 500 or the total stock market. There's different funds out there. VOO is one I personally own. It's an ETF that tracks the S&P 500, and VTI is another personal ETF that I own, and it tracks the overall stocks in the stock market. Literally, that is probably one of the best answers for that question is, hey, I have this money. How should I invest it? Now, there is the other end of the spectrum where you can say invest it in yourself, and that's more of like if you're spending money on learning a new skill that's going to advance you in an industry. Maybe you're learning a new trade, becoming an electrician, and you need to invest some money in your education to get to that point. Or maybe you need to invest some money in a class to learn coding or to go get some sort of computer science degree or whatever it is. Whatever that money is to invest in yourself, whatever you want to do, that's another way you can go invest some hard-earned money that you have and to increase your skills in hopes to later increase your income as well. But ultimately, when it comes to the investing question, I mean, 99.9% of the time, I'm going to say indexes. Just the way to do it. Now, I'm also a big fan of selling options and buying leaps. I also like to buy my speculative companies that I invest in and that I, hope will do good over time. And I like listening to the earnings, but I'm different than most people. Now, some of you out there watching like that stuff like I do. So I keep a separate amount of money in a separate account. I keep that totally separate. And that is my fun account. That's my hobby account. Although I treat it just as serious as my other long-term portfolio, but it's what I love to do. Like I do. I love researching companies. I love learning about companies. I love seeing what they're doing. And if I can choose correctly on my investments in hopes of, letting that portfolio grow just as like I know my long-term index portfolio will as well.
The number one mistake that all of you will make is to do a job that you don't like for some other reason. For the money, for the fear of trying your dream, for your parents, for your inability to tap into your passions and just think it doesn't matter and going to indifference. Every one of you here should be taking on the biggest risks of your life during this decade. This is the moment you need to jump and go at it because you can afford it. One of the biggest mistakes a lot of you will make is you're gonna do something because you want to make it look like you have it figured out and that you're successful. For everything I have, you have something better. It's called time.
Man. That's so true, guys. Like that, if there was like one piece of advice that I could recommend to anyone right now, it would be something along the lines of that. Because Gary Vee, I would say my two biggest like online personalities that have really played a major role in where I'm at today as a father, where I'm at is, as financially, is Dave Ramsey and Gary Vee. So Gary Vee was literally one of the main reasons why I started and had the courage to start my YouTube channel. And then Dave Ramsey is on the personal finance side of things for me. But I will say, I feel so lucky, and I hope if there's guys or girls out there watching this video that this kind of sticks with you. But I feel so lucky that I figured this out at a young age, that I could have easily stuck with that engineering degree or that engineering job I was talking about earlier. I could have easily stuck with it. Like I had it made, guys. Like, I mean, it was a 40, 50 hour a week job. I drove in, got in around 8:30. I left at 4:30, 5 o'clock. And, I was home for the evenings. I was off during the weekends. I mean, I had to travel a little bit, a couple times a year, nothing crazy. I'd just gone for 2 days in the week, nothing bad. It was a cush job. It really was. Like, I could have settled. And I remember telling myself multiple times, like, just settle, JJ. It's fine. You're getting paid a decent wage. You got a family. I had a baby at the time, my son now. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, it's okay. Just settle. Like, you spent all this time and money in college to get to this degree, to get where you're at. It's okay. Just do it. But then there's, the next day I'd come in and I'm like, there's no way. I'm not doing it. I'm not settling. I'm not going to do this. I have one life to live, and I'm not going to live majority of my life, which is what you do with work, doing something that I absolutely hate. It's not even that I didn't even enjoy it. I hated it, guys. I was not happy at all. There were Saturday nights I was stressing about going to work on Monday because I literally hated what I did. And I absolutely will tell every single one of you out there, if you're in that predicament right now and you're at maybe a kind of a cush job, but you absolutely hate what you're doing, it's not worth it. Now, what I'll say is don't just go jump ship and automatically quit. Don't do that. Like, have a game plan of how you're going to exit that position. And it's going to take some time. It's going to take some effort. But take it from me. Like, take that risk of trying something and working in the evenings to get ahead. That's what it takes. I mean, it takes a lot of sacrifice to get yourself out of a situation. Or if you want to jump ships to a different industry. Like right now, I'm trying something brand new personally. I'm trying, I've been in real estate for a while with the investing side of things, but I wanted to get more deep inside real estate. So I decided to join a mortgage brokerage, and now I'm a mortgage broker. And I'm having a blast with it, like meeting realtors and getting out there and connecting with people in the space. That was ultimately my goal, is I wanted to be more involved in the real estate space here where I am locally, because this is my forever home. I don't ever see me and my family leaving this area that we're living at right now. So it's kind of cool to get connected with the community and people in it and other business like-minded people. So I'm having fun with it, and I am, and I feel blessed to be able to do something like that. But I tell you guys that because I'm saying, take it from me. Like, I was in that shitty spot. I was in that job that I hated, and I did I took some sacrifices. I worked my what off, and now I'm doing what I'm doing now. Now, it doesn't have to look the exact same, but like I mentioned, you can literally go try other stuff. Take a pay cut. Get your finances in order at the job you're making, and then take a pay cut to go do something maybe you want to try to see if you like it, because you never know. You may do something out there and you're like, what? I didn't even know this was like the mortgage stuff. I had no idea. I would love it as much as I am right now. But I tried it. I was like, what the hell? Why not? You only live once. I didn't know I was ever going to run a marathon in my life, but I said, what the hell? Why not? Just do stuff, guys. Just say you're going to do it and do it. Don't get so worked up on what people are going to think about you, or, if people see you fail at something, who gives a shit? Who cares? It's your life. Don't worry about what other people are thinking. Go do what you want to do.
And we live in a time where it's never been easier to build wealth, but it's never been harder to live off a paycheck. And yet, what are you taught in school? To live off a paycheck. And it's never been harder. In the 70s, 60s, you legit could have a minimum wage job and probably be able to afford a house, a car, and a couple of kids. That's not happening today. There's no fucking way. We can boo-hoo about it. We can say it's not fair, fuck the government, or you can adapt, learn real-world skill sets, and you're going to thrive, because it's never been easier to build wealth. There's 16-year-old kids making 6 digits a month because they get it. High-value skill sets. Think about Gen Z, millennials. Most of them are balls at communicating. Horrific. Turns out it's a very sought-after skill set, and the more people that are bad at it, the less competition it is, the more valuable it becomes.
Yo, that's a freaking mic drop. That is. I don't even have anything else to add on to that. That's just solid advice. And I will say this. I will add on to the communication part. I know this just from being in sales and doing sales type stuff in the past. And then now what I'm doing is also sales as well, communicating with realtors and other business owners in the real estate space. When you can teach yourself to communicate efficiently and to be not only a good listener, but a good communicator, like just be able to have a regular conversation with a stranger and to keep that conversation going, that is worth, that's something I think everyone should focus on. I really do. Because when you can be a key communicator, that's you stick out so much farther ahead from everyone else in the crowd. Now, you don't want to be the cornball, look at me, I'm gonna say, like, you don't want to be like that. Like, if you're just true to yourself, truly understand and want to talk to the person you're, on the other side of the table, it can do wonders on what just being a good communicator can do. So I say, try to focus on that. Like, again, that's kind of a skill that's, I think, hard to teach and also hard to learn. But how I think I've kind of learned how to do this is just listening to other people talk. Like, I remember I try to surround myself with other people in different industries or meetings or whatever it would be. And you just know, like, that guy, when he's speaking, you're like, damn, like, people listen to him in a good way. Like, you don't want to be like the douchebag. Like, I'm not saying that, but you want to be that guy in a room that just, people respect. Or in a one-on-one conversation, like, the other person understands you're listening to them. I think that's key too, is don't just talk about yourself. Like, when you're in a conversation with someone, ask about them. Ask how they're doing. Ask what they got going on in their life. And be truly interested in what they're saying. That's all it takes. And just learn how to maybe tell a couple jokes too to keep the humor alive. That really does go a long way, guys. But that last one was really good. In today's age, like, you got to take it the next level. You really do, unfortunately. Like, there's no more just skimming by and being able to have a nice life. Like, the time we're living in right now, you have to go the next level. And with that, I will say, if you do choose to go the next level and you do choose to do just a bit more than the average individual, it is unreal there's like this little ceiling, right? If you go past that ceiling of like average and you're up there, and you'll see other people up there, but it's so crazy what gets open to you when you do just a little bit more than the average individual. It's crazy. And I can't really explain it much more than that. But if you go start doing that and applying it to your life every other day or every day, you'll know what I mean. You will. So go out there and do some cool shit, guys. That's what I'm saying.